Your tea's gone cold and you're wondering why you got out of bed at all, Kyle? I know you didn't make that up. I know that's not an original thought. The song's called Thank You by Dido. Dido? Dido. DarbyCast, Wildcard Friday. Kyle has feelings sometimes. A lot of feelings, don't you, pal? But you know what that says to me, Kyle? You're connected with your heart and that you're living courageously. You're putting your faith in people and saying, this is me. This is what I'm about. But you're opening yourself up for the possibility of rejection, which is a prerequisite for what? Authenticity, friendship. How about that, huh, Kyle? Good job. The holidays are coming up. Santa is going to do miserable things to the naughty list this year. You thought he was pissed last year with the naughty list? He's going corporate, and I don't mean that he's going to a seminar. I mean, he's probably eyeballing a lot of CEOs, a lot of CFOs, CTOs, CMOs. I could keep rattling off C-level executive positions, but I think you get the point. Santa's pissed. Imagine for a second, just step into this space of Santa, where all he wants to do is give people a little holiday cheer and maybe a gift that targets everything that they needed. Not some BS Lego set, unless they really needed a Lego set so they could just kind of engage in the art of micro-construction and Zen. Right, Kyle? But don't make it a Star Wars set. Don't be a dweeb. Why am I telling you this? Santa, don't give people Star Wars sets this year, okay, pal? Gosh, my heart goes out to Santa. And if you remember the episode a year ago entitled, He Sees You When You're Sleeping, we know that Santa got pretty violent with some piano wire, and he killed people on the naughty list, and he had every right to. The way things are going? Good Lord. If you're new to this show, you might want to leave. Just get out while you can. As many of the seasoned veterans know, this is too excellent for a lot of people's taste. You may have sent this to somebody, and it could have fundamentally altered your friendship with that person. And they said, I didn't realize you were so amazing. Boom. That's what we like to call in the industry a plot twist. It could go the other direction, though. They could say, you're an evil fuck, aren't you? And that's going to prompt you to do a 360 and walk away. Through them. You push them a little bit. Give them a shoulder right in the sternum. Let them know, I work out and I'm brave overall. How good does that feel? But yeah, if you're new and you're unsure about whether you belong, maybe you stick around. But if you're a coward, get out. Get lost. We need people to listen to this show who are honest, who have strong legs, rockin' core strength, mighty spirits. If you don't have those things right now, but you want those things, stick around. If you don't want those things, go listen to some Cardi B on repeat until your eardrums explode. And then think about something. You might be dead. I don't know how that works. What a torturous session that would be, right, Kyle? Some people are wondering if they're new. They're saying, what is this about? What is this whole show about? The answer to that is everything. We've touched upon such a multiplicity of subjects. We've hit the entire periodic table, so to speak, from an emotional standpoint. The element of surprise comes up pretty often, if we want to make a science joke, right, Kyle? But we're going to talk about gift giving, then we might get back into Santa today. Santa's lost weight, not because he wanted to. And Santa's got the kind of build. Let's just talk about Santa's body for a second. You ever see a strongman competition and the guys aren't like super ripped, but boy, can they move weight around? That's Santa for you. He drinks beer. Guy's not afraid to stare down a wheel of cheese and say, today, I'm going to practice being a magician and I'm going to make you disappear. Mrs. Claus likes that a lot. Not necessarily for Santa's arterial health. She is a little bit concerned about that. But she likes that he's not afraid to be himself. And I think we can all applaud that, right? Authenticity out of Santa. He knows what he likes. Beer, cheese wheels, giving great gifts, and teaching people on the naughty list a pretty mean lesson from time to time. Kris Kringle, Papa Noel, Santa Claus. I think that's Dutch, right, Kyle? You want to go ahead and look that up? We'll talk after the show, man. I know you came in really rough. Your tea's gone cold. You're wondering why. What a cry for help, Kyle. You know who's here for you? Me. As well as Santa, quite obviously. He's got his eyes all over you. He has his intel team. They're not spies, okay? They're not creeps. They're not surveilling you, Kyle. They're checking in on you. Who are those people? Elves. And they wear beanies to hide their ears, so you might think that they're regular kids. Very tasteful, very artsy execution by the elves, who could be hundreds of years old. I wonder what their skincare routine is like up at the North Pole to keep them so young. Cold air shrinks pores. I've heard that, Kyle. Maybe they use Biore pore masks. I don't do that. My face is starting to look way too authentic. In a negative way, Kyle. Christmas just came early, Kyle, because I'm giving you the gift of honest disclosure. Boom. Merry Christmas. But let's get back to the topic of Santa's weight loss. He didn't go on a diet. He didn't change up the exercise routine. He lost his appetite because he was so disgusted with the naughty list. Because people are getting naughtier, right? It used to be that a couple decades ago, you made the naughty list. If you didn't wave to your neighbor and congratulate him on his promotion, you were on the naughty list. If you went to church and you were just going through the motions, you didn't try to lean in and help other people in the congregation, because it's not about you, it's about the community. That would earn you a trip to the naughty list. But Santa has had to fundamentally alter what constitutes the naughty list. And he's made a tiered system now, where if you're apex naughty, boy, are you screwed this year. And he will be doing a reverse commute on the injustice that people have dished out and given it back to them tenfold. Let me give you an example. There's going to be pharmaceutical executives from Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, J&J. And boy, are they going to wake up Christmas morning with a lot of hypodermic needles in their calves, wondering, how did I become a medical pincushion? Santa has lost a lot of weight. He's light on his feet, and his stealth has never been more impressive. No, sir. People pushing fentanyl, they will have coal in their stocking, but instead of coal, you better believe it will be spray-painted black fentanyl. They'll reach in, and then they're dead, which is fair. I endorse all of this, and so do you, if you're a hero. Has anybody hit you with happy holidays recently? Those people aren't your friends. Just want to call that out. But let's talk about Santa's weight loss. He's bummed out because he knows what he has to do, right? For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. A lot of people think about that in terms of thermodynamics and physics. Rarely do they think about it in terms of the moral justice scale of Kris Kringle. But the law holds up, and it holds steady, steadier than most people could even begin to appreciate, myself included. I'm not going to try to flex on you and tell you I know everything that's going on with that list, what goes into that, how Santa's staying up late, skipping meals, writing notes in the margins, coming up with twisted ways to serve up poetic justice, tightly packed with a bow, as a metaphor. Shows up to Chuck Schumer's house with like 400 Somalis, lets them in, make sure that they're all gay ones and then give them ecstasy so they all rape him. Thoughtful gift, right? When you give somebody a gift that they didn't know they needed, that shows them how much you care. For most of us, that might mean a framed photo. For Chuck Schumer, it's a lot of sexual violence coming from the people who he claims are enriching the country. Well, Chuck, Santa is going to make sure that the enrichment happens to you in a way that's pretty inappropriate. I don't make the rules, okay? This is just what's going to happen. But how bummed out do you feel that Santa's losing weight because he's so embroiled in heartache? To some of you, this isn't a surprise, what I'm about to say. To some of you, it might be. Santa has a love-hate relationship with his professional expertise. He's like too good at gift giving or exacting beautiful revenge-adjacent schemes. That's a lot of weight to carry. But let's tip our hats to Mrs. Claus, who's stuck with him. She knows how hard he works in the workshop. He's up so late. And so are the elves. Okay. You want to know what the number one gift is this year that the elves have been losing sleep to hammer out? Tasteful helmets for kids on e-bikes. Santa instructed the elves. He said, I love that these kids have a sense of freedom, some independence, some camaraderie, because they're forming these little eco-friendly Hell's Angels chapters where they talk about how wicked the establishment is. But let's keep their little noggins safe and maybe give them a pamphlet on traffic laws. What a great gift to give to many a child. A cool helmet, not with Fortnite stickers on it. For the boys, those helmets are going to be colored either black or gunmetal gray, maybe a tasteful Arctic white. For the girls, burgundy, deep, sleepy purple. Kyle, can you look that up? Is that a real color? It sounds like it could be, right? For the girls, the color for their white will not be a frosty Arctic white, be a little bit softer. Narwhal horn swirl with some walrus tusk white. So tasteful. My goodness. So as we know, Santa has the bases covered when it comes to helmets. But what's the gift that he can't give? For all of his skills, for his leadership skills, the tight division of labor that goes into making sure that all those helmets get manufactured in a timely manner. Everything's up to OSHA standards except for vaccination requirements. My gosh, Santa's not going to mandate a death sentence to his employees. He sure isn't. He's read the literature. He's been concerned about it for quite some time. He just doesn't want any fires in the factory. He doesn't want any of these elves getting their fingers stuck in gears, cogs. Doesn't want their shimmering faces to be blasted with magenta paint, leaving them blind and cutting into Santa's bottom line as he pays out workers' comp claims. What a disaster. Santa's big on safety. That's what I'm trying to tell you. But what's the gift Santa can't give to kids? His time. Between running the greatest manufacturing operation in the entire world, tending to his reindeer and his rhinos, let's not forget about his rhinos, Giovanni, the equivalent of Rudolph, the rhino Giovanni, Stampy, Cleo, Clam, Beverly. You remember the names. If you're a pro, that takes a lot of time. When he's tiptoeing around and then surprising Senator Jerry Nadler with a sock with a bar of soap in it, not as a gift, with which to beat him. So hard. Out of respect for the country. It's a high ethics play if we're looking at things correctly. But Santa can't give his time because he just doesn't have any. His tenderness, his ear. He can't lend his ear to the youth, not to adults either. And so this helps land the plane squarely on the runway of the most meaningful gift you can give, which is positive intention with your attention. My goodness. You're not doing it because you want to get on the nice list or off the naughty list. You're doing it because you know that there's kids out there who need role models, who need mentors, who need high fives, who need encouragement. You would be astounded at what some people can achieve with a minimal amount of encouragement. Taking a genuine interest in somebody's pursuits and saying, what are you working on these days? And even if they say something that's pretty fucking stupid, you say, that's great. I love that. Kids don't always have the best ideas, but that's why they need mentors to ask good questions to get them on the right path and say, Billy, I like who you are, but I think we could shock everyone when they see you reaching your full potential. A lot of people are maybe thinking to themselves right now, isn't this the job of parents? The answer to that is yes. Yes, it is. They're the primary providers of encouragement and stewardship of Billy's Adventure. BillysAdventure.com. Kyle, buy the website and then just have it be a landing page with some text that says, go spend some time with your kids. Or if you're a kid, go outside, get off the godforsaken internet. Gosh, that's a good sounding website, isn't it, Kyle? This is my gift to the DarbyCast doctors, this episode. You can't buy this. I don't see an immediate financial return on this. That's not what motivates me. What motivates me? I want to see more people smiling. I want to see more people rivaling elves with their radiance. Is that such a bad thing to want for people, Kyle? No, it isn't. Checkmate. Game over, Kyle. You lose, but everybody wins. So scratch that L off your record and turn it to a W, Kyle. You're part of the subset of everyone. Good fucking job. That's what I have to say to you, Kyle. You know there's going to be some green energy people this year that are going to wake up in a room that's half full of battery acid, indisposable waste. They're going to wish they got coal, well, fossil fuel, but no. Santa has a creative sense of ironic justice because the justice system isn't cutting it. They're not going to borderline drown any of these green freaks in battery acid. There's so much corruption going on in that industry, and it's netting the environment, I think, a pretty negative outcome. Solar panels and wind farms kill birds, doves. This is what it feels like when doves cry. You ever heard that song, Kyle? Doves weep when their family members are obliterated by wind turbines. Lesser known fact, but it makes quite a bit of sense, does it not? There's going to be some parents this year. There's some parents in this world of ours that made a major error this year. Error, Kyle? I never get that one right. That word is so tough for me. But they probably told their kids that Santa wasn't real. And boy, are they in for a fucking surprise. My goodness, are they? Imagine being one of those bozo parents. You wake up on Christmas morning and there's a breadboard on your nightstand with a rusty knife stuck in it that's pinning a note that says, I'm real. P.S. You know exactly who this is from. Way to send a message, right? And again, we're not happy to see that Santa has lost weight the way he has. But boy, aren't we all impressed with him completely maxing out his stealth stat category. That's not an easy trick to pull. Drop a breadboard in somebody's bedroom without waking him up? Up at the North Pole, Santa was just brining knives. He had plenty of good knives that he could have used to put that message on the breadboard. But from an artistic standpoint, the rusty knife plays. And you know it. And so does Santa. So do the elves. Imagine how many conversations the elves have had this year with each other. They probably said, hey, I'm worried about the big guy. And how incredible is that? To have your employees looking out for you in the way that you look out for them. Santa cares not just about the elves' safety, as we've highlighted earlier. He cares about their families. He wants them to have time off. He wants them to have a lot of kids. And he doesn't want elf civilization to be overrun by Eskimos. Eskimos bring nothing to the North Pole that isn't already there. They would just ruin it. They can have their space, but Santa's region, pretty strict on border patrol. The elves, their equivalent of ice. Where does ice come into play when it comes to elf border patrol? That's right, in their guns. Ice bullets. Get a couple shots from an ice gun, and then what happens? The bullets melt. It's untraceable. People try to figure out what happened to these Eskimos who were bold enough to cross into the North Pole, into Santa's lands. Really tough to figure out. They think that there's been a lot of walrus attacks, partially because the elves tend to shoot people the perfect distance apart twice. That would make it look like it was a walrus accident. So, amazing overall. What a bunch of professionals. I think that's what we're all thinking to ourselves right now. But this is a two-way street. Let's get back to the elves caring about Santa. He's taken the high potential elves, teaching them leadership skills, and helping them to build teams to do the right thing. Border Patrol, helmet manufacturing, spraying fentanyl with black spray paint to make it look like coal. They all have their roles. But this isn't some soulless corporation. People know each other, and they've got each other's backs. You better believe that some of the department heads threw Santa a Christmas party. Small party, nothing out of control. No alcohol present. This wasn't about getting fucking shit-faced. This was about connecting with one another. And everybody said, hey, Chris Kringle, boss, big guy. We know how jacked up this world of ours has been. The political corruption, the ethical violations. We know how heavily this is weighing on your heart. Santa takes a seat, gives out an exasperated sigh, just goes, I've never felt so seen in my entire life. Guys and girls, there's a couple female department heads. There was no push to say we need more women in leadership roles. They got there and they earned it. And they ran departments that you would expect. Cooking, health, and nursing. For when you did have one of those factory line disasters, couple fingers get crushed. There's just something about a female's bedside manner that dudes have a really hard time of replicating. There is. Why does food taste better when it's made by a gal who infuses the flavor with a dash of love as the secret ingredient? Why does it taste so much better, Kyle? But you know what the elves don't do? They don't say, cheer up, Santa, eyes on the prize. Christmas is right around the corner. Sack up, man. They're talking about his gift sack. They're not talking about his scrote. Get your head out of the gutter, Kyle. They let him be where he's at. They say, Santa, I can't even imagine the weight that's on your shoulders. Santa can barely focus because he's just thinking about how much pain he's got to dish out to Chelsea Clinton. Some of you are asking right now, why not Hillary? Why not Bill? Because Chelsea Clinton's a bigger fraud than both of them combined. That's why. If this is news to you, cat's out of the bag. Here's a little Christmas gift for you. That's not a big gift. It's kind of a stocking stuffer, but it is a gift to know things like that. But what a treat. Is this happening at companies around the country? You bet your ass it's not. I hope that this episode can be deconstructed and reformed into a PowerPoint and taught in a couple businesses around the country. Talk about emotional IQ. Emotional Q. EQ. It took me a while to get to, but that's what leaders know how to do. That's why those elves are in the positions that they are, because they know how to connect. Not just with their subordinates, with their higher ups as well. Santa is amazing, right? But he has a heart. And occasionally, anyone's heart can get a little heavy and they need a boost. Now let's bring it back to giving people our time, our enthusiasm, our tenderness, and our joy this holiday season, but year-round as well. Two-way streets, right? You can give love to somebody who's older than you, bigger than you. Go up to somebody who's pretty hefty and say, "You're a big guy. I believe in you." Where the fuck has that been? This needs to move in all directions, though, from a relational standpoint. People who are older, people who are the same age, people who are younger. They aren't teaching kids anything worthwhile in school. Igneous rocks, divergent plates, the quadratic formula. How many of you have used those things in the past decade or ever? How many of you found it necessary to be able to quickly author a haiku? That's what they're teaching in schools. Igneous rocks rock. The core is made of magma. This serves no purpose. 575, Kyle. 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. Why am I saying this? Kids need mentors. They need lessons taught to them. What does it mean to be a good friend? How do you pick yourself up when you're feeling blue? How do you have a relationship with somebody of the opposite sex that can go the distance? I don't know if any of these things are super appropriate to even teach in school in the first place. Some of them are. The friendship lessons, a lot of that happens outside the classroom. What about how to budget, not spend your money on Fortnite skins? What about first aid in case your friend falls off his e-bike and needs some compression on a head wound? Santa can't give these gifts. He simply can't. He can give the first aid kit, but he's got to bounce and go to other houses. He can't teach a kid how to shoot a free throw and nail a layup. He can give him the basketball. Can't teach him how to box out. What else aren't they teaching kids in school? How to stand up for what's right. How to say no. To go up to a teacher named Mr. Thompson, who's been spouting off inappropriately about his personal politics during school hours. Mr. Thompson's black, and a lot of kids don't know how to go up to Mr. Thompson and say, "You don't get a free pass on this because you're black. You've been going way too hard. What you're doing is not appropriate. I'm trying to learn about the Scarlet Letter. I'm trying to learn about Hester Prynne and why she felt so compelled to act like a slut." Just go up to Mr. Thompson and say, "This is not appropriate to talk about Greta Thunberg, whatever the fuck you've been calling her. I think there's some perversion behind the scenes there, Mr. Thompson. But also, I'd like to focus on the curriculum, the Scarlet Letter. You know, the book you're supposed to be teaching us? Do your fucking job, Mr. Thompson." Where has that been? You keep digging into Mr. Thompson. You say, "I'd like to go back and review the book of Mice and Men. You were way too busy talking about how you thought Donald Trump was a lot like Hitler. And I just wanted to learn about oversized mongoloids and why they shouldn't be trusted with puppies." Kids are missing out on so much. You can't trust that kids are just going to grow up and be socialized into functioning adults. Not the way things have been going, not with the internet, not with the perverts in the school system, not with the psycho parents, the moms who have the whites of their eyes above the iris showing. Have you seen that when they talk? Oh my gosh, right, Kyle? You ever look into somebody's eyes, the windows to the soul, and you just know that like there's a lot that isn't even in the zip code of okay going on in that person's behind the scenes? We can't trust those moms to get it right. And that's why we, people who say Merry Christmas, people who love JC, and people who are loved by JC in a way that is so challenging to even fathom how much JC loves you and me, despite who we are. My gosh, relentless, fearless, bottomless love is what JC has for all of us. How about that for Christmas as the gift that you can give somebody? A spiritual walk doesn't happen opening up a gift bag. It happens in a relationship, mentorship. What if that's the best gift that we could give to anybody? And that we said, Christmas isn't the only time that I'm going to give this gift. I'm going to dish it out in the way that John Stockton threw alley-oops to Karl Malone. What's that like? All the time. Passes were right on the money. They got jammed home. In this example, we're trying to elevate others by making that pass. Let's let others be the hero of the highlight reel. This holiday season, check that, this Christmas. Boom, gotcha. I don't care about Kwanzaa. It's made up. Hanukkah's fine, but it's not my culture. John Stockton, Karl Malone, believers. In JC, believers in alley-oops, believers in friendship, believers in justice, believers in selling Chevrolets. Kyle, can you see what kind of car dealerships Karl Malone specializes in? He does own quite a few dealerships in Utah from my recollection. And he didn't get there because Santa gave him a basketball. He got there because a lot of coaches and mentors gave him their time and their encouragement and helped shepherd him to greatness. So let's review. Santa's got a lot on his plate. He's looked better. He's got a lot on his mind. He's got a lot on his agenda. He's got a lot of creative violence to dish out. He's got a lot of helmets to surprise kids with. A lot of pamphlets about the rules of the road. But let's take that bounce pass from Santa and then let's oop it to the kids and say, I could teach you how to ride this a little bit better. The pamphlet works fine for visual learners, but what about the kinesthetic kids who need hands-on coaching? What about the auditory learners who need to be yelled at and say, damn it, Billy, you didn't have the right of way. Nice helmet, by the way. What is that? Gunmetal gray? And then Billy says, yeah. How good would that feel for everybody in the whole community? My goodness. Santa's real. Popo Gijo. Right, Kyle? Boy, is he tired. With how quickly the world's changing, he's having to learn new skills to properly punish the people on the naughty list. Those crypto fucks. He's having to learn how to hack into people's wallets and then leave a single NFT that says, I'm on to you. I don't know how to do that. Okay, let me shoot my hand up. That's not part of my wheelhouse. It's tough for old people to learn tech stuff too. So we can all tip our collective hats to Santa. He's probably been sitting in on some junior college classes, and some people have just assumed that it's a fat homeless guy. But what a sloppy set of reasoning skills anybody would have if that was the conclusion that they drew. How would there be a fat homeless person? Homeless people are struggling to make ends meet and have square meals. Fat old guy, yeah, that works. But he's not fat. He's sturdy. We've gone over this. You know how much Santa squats? It takes all of us to make a Merry Christmas. That's the big takeaway that I'd like you to have from this episode. Sure, positive messages aplenty in this, but Christmas is about joy, celebrating the birth of our Lord and Savior, JC, in a manger, Bethlehem, Kyle. Open the book of Luke in your Bible, just do a little refresh. But it's not about what we give on Christmas Day. It's not about what people are ripping open Christmas morning. Because that feeling comes and goes. It's temporary. The surprise, maybe the disappointment, when you realize the coal in your stocking is actually fentanyl and you have moments to live. Your life flashes before your eyes and you're like, I'm a bad fucking dude. Very temporary experience. And then it's over. So let's give gifts with staying power. And what if the most powerful gift of all is simply staying, hanging in there with people, giving them your time, your love, your attention, your bicep curl techniques. How many of you guys have pythons for arms, but you haven't taught a single other person how you've been getting it done? So selfish. So selfish. What if you're a gal and you're really good at art? You haven't invited a single friend over this whole year to goof around with some art projects and talk about your thoughts and your feelings, what's going on in your heart. Do a 360 and move forward into a relationship with somebody who needs it. That is not one that you're going to go shoulder to the sternum. That's one where you're going to go in for a hug that lasts a little too long. What's another major takeaway from this, Kyle? You got to notice other people. In the way that the elves noticed Santa, we need to notice other people and when they're struggling. It's so fashionable in modern secular culture to bash and try to dunk on these incels. These guys, many of whom are just trying their best, and they have been getting little to no coaching. They don't have lasting friendships. And I want to absolve a lot of these young fellas of a large portion of their struggles and say, people haven't been looking out for you. And that needs to change. But we're going to meet in the middle. You got to put yourself out there. You got to join a Bible study. You got to join a sports league. We have to put ourselves in the correct position to make the connections that are going to make our hearts surge. Kyle, doesn't that sound good? Son of a bitch. Let's pivot to the ladies. How tough is it to be a young gal in today's day and age? When it feels like the world just wants you to be a disinterested skank who couldn't be bothered to do anything other than obsess over manicuring your digital profiles. That's not entirely your fault. You haven't had strong female role models to come alongside you, put an arm around you and say, this culture is so twisted. Katrina, being loud and drunk all the time are actually not feminine virtues. You're being led down a really weird path, and it will end in loneliness and heartbreak if you try to become the woman that the world is telling you that you should be. That advice goes for dudes too. You don't have to become this atomized, cynical, angry jerk or a man-child who describes everything as it relates to Harry Potter and Star Wars. You don't have to become that way. It's like nobody ever told these kids that they had a choice. But it's a two-way street. The kids have to step out of their comfort zone. But the adults and the senior citizens, don't think you're off the hook on this one, seniors. We all have to step into the space together to create a beautiful future. Boy, does this extend beyond Christmas. This starts happening. You want to know what else starts happening? Santa starts crushing cheese wheels again. Slugging beers. Not because he's driving recklessly next to the cliff of alcoholism as a metaphor, but because he's got his jolly spirit back and he's like, this is why I got into this business. When he can spend more time focusing on giving great gifts rather than punishing people who are cowards, criminals, perverts, and mischievous dirtbags. That's not why he got into this. But that's DarbyCast for you. That's Wildcard Friday. Merry Christmas. Send this to somebody. Send this to 10 people. Let them know what Christmas is about. Let them know how much Santa's been hurting. Let them know what it means to be brave in a relationship and step in and be willing to feel rejected, but to make it through to the other side and feel connected. Kyle, now's our time to go to the gym, and you're going to open up. You're going to tell me what's going on. You're going to show me your iTunes play history or your Spotify. I'm not sure which one you're using, but you're going to show it to me, and we're going to go from there. I cherish you. But that's DarbyCast Wildcard Friday.